trip to the east coast of the United States in Boston. As we land, the city stretches out impressively before us. The view from the cockpit shows the capital of Massachusetts, nestled among many bays. The runway where our flight ends is on one of these bays. Boston is a place of history. Faneuil Hall is here, the birthplace of freedom, at least in American eyes. Opposition to European settlers towards the English throne started here. This is where the colonial powers departed for the New World. Today, a market adds a certain color. Over 200 years ago, the residents gathered in this building, Faneuil Hall. It later made history as a monument to freedom. Those who want to see further evidence of the American Revolutionary War can follow the Freedom Trail, which leads the visitor to all the relevant historical sites in the city. The Paul Revere Monument is one example. The colonial citizens have him to thank for their decisive victory over the throne. He warned the people about the English intentions. Paul Revere's house can be visited today in its original state. It can be found on Freedom Trail. The Boston Tea Party started the Revolutionary War. When the British demanded a too high a tax on tea, discontent boiled over. But Boston also has another side, that of a modern city. Glass-mirrored skyscrapers mingle with the history and dominate the skyline, a typical American city. Boston has a long tradition in the field of education. The city guarantees teaching quality all over the world in the form of Harvard University and the suburb of Cambridge. The most famous minds were educated here. Here there is also a museum dedicated to the most famous son of the city, John F. Kennedy, the U.S. president who was assassinated in 1963. Kennedy's promotion from senator to presidential candidate up to his tragic end can be relived again on screen. His inaugural speech is printed under a huge American flag. Such high objectives cannot be obtained. Northwest of Boston, the east of the United States awaits you with a gigantic natural wonder which Americans, to a great extent, call their own, Niagara Falls. Millions of gallons of water cascade into the depths here every day. Part of the falls are in U.S. territory, the other part in Canada. The most breathtaking view of the falls can be seen, however, from the Canadian side. You can cross the border without difficulty via a bridge. Those who want to spend some time here would be wise to do so on the Canadian side. Our route takes us further west towards Chicago, the busiest city on Lake Erie. Sears Tower, the tallest building in the world, is in Chicago. From a viewing platform in the Erie Heights, you can see the city from a perspective otherwise only possible from a helicopter. A shopping street comparable to Fifth Avenue in New York lies in the shadow of the John Hancock Tower, the fifth highest building in the world. Chicago has changed its image. A visit there is well worthwhile and is no longer dangerous. The Statue of Liberty, the symbol of the biggest city on the East Coast, New York, greets the approaching ships before they reach the harbor. The only green spot in the concrete jungle of the city worth mentioning is Central Park, known as the Green Lung. For many New Yorkers, the park compensates for the concrete backyards. But here in Central Park, you have greenery and fun all at the same time. On Sundays, the park is closed to traffic, and the paths belong to the visitors who know how to exude their happiness. Otherwise, the park is actually what it was meant to be, a restful, relaxing place in the middle of New York City. Sport is written with a capital letter in Central Park. American football is played on every corner. New York by night is a special attraction. Around Times Square, night is turned to day. 42nd Street, once the heart of the theater and movie scene, runs from the end of Times Square. Today it's the Mile of Inequity, with peep shows and porno shops. Those looking for a higher class of entertainment will have no problem in New York. Jazz bars such as the Blue Note are on offer, as well as this former church where one of the most frequented discos of the city is found. Harlem, a borough of New York, is often wrongly portrayed in public. It's still wise to visit this part of New York only in the daytime. The first visual impression is of dilapidated houses and filthy back lots. Driving through the streets of Harlem may be shocking and horrifying for some, and the graffiti on the walls support this feeling. But there is more to Harlem. Interesting churches in the black community account for a large part of the social life. Jazz theaters like the Apollo on 125th Street is also a shopping paradise. It's only a few of the barely known contrasts. Several races are represented in New York. Many inhabitants hold the memory of their home countries close to their hearts and are responsible for the resulting areas, like the Italians who have created a little Italy in the heart of New York. Just opposite them, the Chinese are at home. More than 12,000 Chinese live here, ensuring that Chinatown is filled with the hectic life of the Far East. Some people almost think they're in Peking. The Lincoln Center is the epitome of the cultural mecca of New York. There are more performances on offer here than anywhere else in the world. Whoever wants to be here to experience the pleasure of the performances should get tickets well in advance, and even then, without contacts, you often end up empty-handed. They'll have more success visiting the diverse sites in the city like the Empire State Building. Given suitable weather, there's nothing to stop you visiting the 86th floor of once the tallest skyscraper in New York. The Empire State Building lost its stature as the tallest building in the city to the World Trade Center. Before leaving New York, let's catch a last glimpse of New York's wonderful skyline and of the Statue of Liberty. Whoever is looking for a stretch of beach on the East Coast can plunge into the waves in Atlantic City. The second largest city in the state of New Jersey owes its popularity not exclusively to the inviting sandy beaches and the waves of the Atlantic. Hotels, one bigger than the next, could prove to be competition for Las Vegas with its gambling. It's the only city outside Nevada where roulette and poker do their bit in attracting visitors in their throngs. Philadelphia is another city on the East Coast of the United States where American history is reflected to a high degree. The Liberty Bell was rung in 1776 after the Declaration of Independence was announced. The bell, which in the meantime has cracked, is now protected from the weather in a glazed building. The Declaration of Independence from the British Crown took place in this building. The 4th of July, 1776, is a date which shaped world history. Not far from Philadelphia in Amish County, farmers today live as they did years ago. The Amish people refuse all innovations such as electricity or fuel for religious reasons. They till their fields without tractors and they travel everywhere by horse and buggy. However, the inhabitants couldn't cut themselves off totally from progress. Even they had to pay tribute to tourism. Another place not far from Philadelphia is the children's paradise Sesame Street. The well-known characters from the TV series of the same name are near enough to touch. Ernie and Bert are, of course, the attraction. But the park offers everything a child's heart desires: swings, slides, and much more. Further south, we reach Harper's Ferry, where the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers meet. The water here is so clean that you can splash around quite safely, and depending on the season, you can even swim in it. Harper's Ferry is also historically important. The tradition is kept up today as many of the employees walk around in traditional garments. Harper's Ferry was destroyed by floods on several occasions. Historic film clips on video are supposed to keep the memory of the disasters which the city had to endure alive.
The worst flood in 1852 washed away some low-lying houses, but the town quickly...
We continue on a historical note and head to Baltimore. Like so many of the East Coast cities, Baltimore is a reminder of the times of the Civil War. About 150 years ago, the war between brothers raged along the coast. Today, Baltimore is a modern city at the gates of Washington. The harbor, situated in the middle of the city, is a meeting place for young and old alike. Here, it's a real effort to find a spot to relax. Washington is about an hour's drive south of Baltimore. The government metropolis is the most untypical city on the East Coast. There are few or no skyscrapers. It's flat and sprawling, with bombastic monuments and buildings which often remind you of Rome. Yes, that's Washington. The White House, home of the president, is a must for your itinerary. Those who want to pay a visit, however, must prepare themselves for a long wait. The Capitol is also a must. Luckily, the crowds of visitors are not so big here. The enormous cathedral dome of the Capitol has served as a model for almost all capitals. During a tour of the seat of the American Senate, the visitor learns about the facts and figures of this symbol of the city.
Washington is sitting in a large chair with a purple robe across his lap. In fact, it gives the illusion he's looking right down at you.
Many presidents have monuments dedicated to them, and some of them are huge. One example is the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. You'll find everything in Williamsburg, south of Washington, except peace. In the Busch Gardens Pleasure Park, there are some of the most adventurous roller coasters. This one is only recommended to freaks. And if that is not enough, this stomach-turner contraption will scare the living daylights out of you. In the historical part of Williamsburg, there are some of the original houses from Civil War times. With the help of Rockefeller's millions, they were restored to their original state. As we now travel further south, the landscape changes. The long streets of Virginia have their own attractions. Here, the speed limit is 55 miles per hour, so you've got plenty of time to look at the houses in the area, which are so different from other cities. Along the way, you'll come across many sights, like, for example, an enormous raised cliff, which leaves the impression of a naturally created bridge. Southerly direction, natural chimneys can be seen on this route. From Washington, it's quite a long drive to Atlanta, our next stop. A hotel restaurant provides a perfect viewing tower over Atlanta. It now stands where the characters of the movie Gone with the Wind once acted. Stone Mountain is a place for relaxation. It lies at the gates of the city. You can view the area via an old railway. Even here, a reminder of the past is not far away. A monument chiseled into the cliff face keeps the memory of the Civil War alive. Old paddle steamers also bring back memories of times gone by. Lake Lanier is the second largest park at the edge of Atlanta. There's no street leading to the key, but numerous footpaths will get you there. There's also a pleasure park near Atlanta called Six Flags over Georgia. Of course, here the roller coasters, one wilder than the next, are favorites among visitors. Music groups often playing in the parks provide light entertainment. Many a big-name music star got his start here. New Orleans, home of the Mississippi steamer and of jazz, is a good hour's flight from Atlanta. The Latin Quarter is the historical part of New Orleans. Here, you're in the middle of the American Southeast. Gone with the Wind really comes to life here. The houses are still in the typical style of the olden days. Everything has stayed as it was. The most comfortable way to look around here is also the most expensive. For $50, you can sit and enjoy the scenery in a horse-drawn carriage. But all this nostalgia should not hide the fact that even in New Orleans, time has not stood still. Modern high-rise buildings and, above all, a dome sports arena mark modern days. The cemeteries in New Orleans are quite special. The dead are not buried underground because of frequent flooding, so they are laid to rest in waterproof tombs. From Louisiana, our journey takes us further on to Florida. Tallahassee is the capital of the Fun and Sun State. You notice soon enough that you're in a sleepy little town on the edge of the political periphery and that no world politics take place here. In Tallahassee, what nature has to offer is much more important. Numerous lakes, water sports of all sorts is what counts here. Florida can call the oldest city in the U.S. its own, St. Augustine. The visitor is offered lots of highlights, among them the oldest school built of wood in the U.S. It's the building on the right in this picture. What a contrast there is only a few miles south. Here, the Kennedy Space Center invites you to visit. Those who are there at the right time can witness the takeoff or landing of a space shuttle. Americans tend to prefer swimming pools to the sea, so Florida tempts visitors with enormous swimming pools called water parks. Pools with waves and enormous slides are a specialty of these parks. Performances with killer whales are the SeaWorld domain. Shanwa the whale is the star attraction here. Lots of water gets splashed around at Disney MGM's latest attraction when the visitors are smuggled through Catastrophe Canyon. A glimpse behind the scenes of the world of movie making is the latest attraction at Disney World. Or well-known parks like Epcot and the Magic Kingdom with Mickey Mouse attract millions of visitors each year. Duels between the knights can be seen in medieval times, where you are a guest of the king and the noble squires fight for the honor of their bride, just like in former times. Not less wild, but at least less dangerous are the happenings in the Busch Gardens. On a boat ride through the rapids, you're never sure of escaping a total drenching. So let's now go to the beaches, where you can decide for yourself whether you want to go into the water or not. Next to the sandy beaches stretching for miles along the west coast of Florida, you'll find Mussel Beach on Sanibel Island. Seashell after seashell as far as the eye can see. Those who prefer to hunt lions can do this with a camera at least. You only have to drive through lion safari country near Palm Beach. Fort Lauderdale offers the atmosphere of a European type of resort town. Restaurants at the water's edge, boat trips by night, as well as lots of beautiful girls. Well, a must for all male holiday seekers who are traveling alone. Miami, the most important city in Florida, with its skyscrapers, sparkles in the sun on the one side. And on the other side, there's a wonderful array of water sports. It's the first stop for many visitors, especially for European visitors. Here, the dreamy beaches also tempt you. Miami hasn't got the most pleasant-sounding name in the world for nothing. The huge hotels which are lined up along the beach are both worth seeing and are fabulous. For many people, Miami means water sports and speedboats, and you don't need a boat license. Just rent a boat, and then you can drift through the channels at the gates of Miami. The Everglades, situated directly at the gates of this metropolis, should not be missed either, especially if you're an animal lover. You can travel through the rather marshy area by airfoils and reach the remotest areas of the national park, so you can admire the beautiful fauna and flora up close. Key West spreads a Bahama-like atmosphere. It's the former home of Ernest Hemingway, whose house can be visited today as a museum. Whoever wants to stay in the United States but doesn't want to miss the Caribbean should really take a good look around our last destination on our trip through the east of the U.S., Puerto Rico. Golden beaches, crystal blue water are the symbols of the most southerly spot in the United States. Spread out over the whole island, you'll find luxury hotels, dreamy bays which invite you to swim and which account for the atmosphere on the island. The capital of Puerto Rico, San Juan, offers the visitor a change from beach and water. Here you can go see all the diverse sights, like the Capitol or the numerous churches by tourist bus, free of charge, too. You can also buy an original hat weaved from palm leaves as a souvenir for just a couple of dollars. But the loveliest souvenir is free and can't be stolen from your host. And that is the unbeatable sunset over the sea.